Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Walaikum assalam.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, my name is Bryce. I converted on the very last day of 2017, on December 31st. I just went into the masjid, I think right after Maghrib, and Brother Justin was there, another convert, and he was leading the prayer with, I think, only 3 other men. But luckily that was enough to witness me. But leading up to those moments, I'm going to wind it way back. I was raised by Christian parents. One set of grandparents is Buddhist, and the other set of grandparents is Christian. And then both parents are Christian. And we went to church once a week, pretty standard affair. And they were just doing a normal Christian upbringing, and then my dad's best friend. We were best friends with a family. They were called the Johnsons. They were a family very much like ours. They had a similar number of kids, all similar ages, parents similar ages as my parents, and every single one of us was good friends with each other. And the father, Eric Johnson, came down with I believe, bone marrow cancer in his, I believe, the bones in his hips. And it was caught very late, and it eventually progressed until his death. Alhamdulillah. That was the first real, I guess, tragedy in my life. I was just a small kid at the time. I was probably only around 11 years old, I want to say. And so I did not feel the gravity of the situation like my parents did, especially my dad, because that was his best friend. And Eric was very similar to my dad in a lot of ways. Like I said, similar family structure, similar age, similar accomplishments. And I feel like seeing his best friend die was something, obviously it's going to be a traumatic experience, but he also saw a lot of himself in Eric. And I feel like that once Eric was gone, my dad couldn't look at himself or his life the same way. And he had been married to my mom for 20 years, and they just couldn't keep it going anymore. And not too long after Eric died, my dad was filing for a divorce, and we stopped going to church as a result. My dad was going out and finding a place in the area to, still be in his kids' lives, because I'm the youngest. I have 2 older siblings, an older brother and an older sister, and my brother still was not 18 yet. He wasn't an adult. So all of us were still fairly young. And so he still wanted to be in the area, And my mother was hit pretty emotionally by that. And so there really was no real drive present in the family to go to church anymore. My mother just didn't have the energy for it, simply put. Once again, I was a little kid. None of this was really hitting me hard. It was, sure, I had not really picked up on the messages in church very much. I wasn't reading the Bible regularly. I knew it was a sad thing that Mr. Johnson died, and I knew it was a relatively sad thing that my parents were splitting up, but I knew that it happened to other kids and other parents, so I don't know, I just kind of maintained for the time being. And but and so I never really latched onto, Christian beliefs in the first place, I feel like. And then so once I'm starting to grow up and I get into high school and then into junior college, and I'm basically just agnostic. I was at the point where I was saying, I don't see evidence. I don't see clear-cut evidence of a God, but I also can't just say that all these people are wrong that are in these monotheistic religions. I don't have enough evidence to say that either. So I was basically just admitting that I didn't know enough. And but I also was not taking the time out of the day to go and research other religions, research God, anything, because I don't know, I was just too busy doing school and providing for myself. And then what really gets me, the event that really brings me closer to the path of Islam is about 2 years ago, during my last year of community college. Excuse me. I connected with a woman, over a Facebook group. The Facebook group was not a dating group. It was about anime. It was about Japanese anime shows. Yes. I mean, and we had just started talking just based off of our favorite shows that we liked and characters that we liked and things like that. And we had a lot of similarities. We liked each other's personalities. I added her. We started talking regularly. And her name on Facebook was Rose. That was her first name. And she wasn't hijabi or anything. So I didn't know at first that she was Muslim. It wasn't until I saw that her friends were calling her Hadija, and I'm like, is your actual name Hadija? And she's like, yeah. And I learned that she was a Muslim, and that was really that would be my first real interaction with a Muslim, I would say. Like my first, I had one classmate throughout K through 12 that was Muslim. That was it. I grew up in California. I grew up in San Luis Obispo, and there is a mosque in the county, but I never had any reason to go there, and never had any reason to, never had any connection to it at all. And then finally, this girl in Massachusetts, over Facebook through an anime chat, is my connection to Islam. My first connection to Islam. And, we would talk about it every now and then because it was a very big part of her life. It's a very big part of all of our lives, day in, day out. And when I learned that she was Muslim, it didn't really I didn't really think much of it. I was just I was agnostic. I was like, okay, she's Muslim. That's a first for me, but she's nice and she's trustworthy and all those other wonderful things. And let's see. So even though we were still talking from 3,000 miles away, our interest in each other grew and grew, and we began dating. And things were going well. We still weren't talking about Islam a whole lot, but every now and then. And then a strenuous case of certain circumstances came up for her and her family that was meant for her either being deported out of the country to be married off to somebody else, or or to be honor killed. And that's like a hollow threat that her dad gave, and I understand that that's a cultural thing and not an Islamic thing. But she feared for her own life in her parents' care. or she feared, or at the very least, she feared for the freedom of her life and being able to do what she wanted to do. And during this time, I was about to finish up junior college and start moving up here to Davis to attend UC Davis. And so, at this time, by this point, she had already flown over to see me, and we had met in person, and she was about to fly over to have a second stay with me, to have a second visit with me, and she was just saying, I really think that if I come back, I'm not going to stay in America. And I said, well, then let's go to Davis together. And during that time, hopefully you can talk it out with your parents, and hopefully have them come to their senses. I mean, I'm sure you'll be happier that way, and no big irreparable decision will be made during that time. And so we agreed to that. And she came over here, and we were in San Luis for another month or so. I got her a job working there, and then we got all our affairs in order, and we moved up to Davis together. I got it okayed with my roommates up here, and she was able to stay with us and help pay rent and all that. And so now that we were living together, and communicating to each other, not just day by day, but 24/7, I was able to see Islam in her life up close, and we were able to discuss it more frequently. And I was also realizing that I cared a lot about her. I cared immensely about her, and she cared immensely about me. And I wanted to get to know her better, and I wanted to know the religion that she loved so much. And so I was talking more intensely about it with her, and she would show me, lectures from some of her favorite sheikhs. What's that guy's name? Dr. Yeah, Zakir. Yeah. And I remember there was one time she went with me to work, and we were watching some of those videos, and an atheist was asking him, about what the meaning of life is, and he was explaining it as a test that God had set up for us, and that everything in life is part of this test, and it's not like we're in the process of studying for the test. We're taking the test right now in life, and we're being tested on how well we can find the truth of Allah, and how well we can follow the truth and refrain from what is evil and what is lies. And a bunch of other stuff that was really clicking with me that day. Like, for the first time, I felt like I was actually hearing it. And I remember after a few minutes of watching those videos, we were outside. I was washing golf carts, because that's what I was doing. And I just felt like this wave of just pressure and presence just enveloped me. I was, and like sparks were going off in my head, and everything was lining up, and I was thinking, all these events in my life are connected and ordained by somebody of immeasurable power. And I mean, it never occurred to me before that it was in fact possible. And just that day, SubhanAllah, I was, Allah had, softened my heart, and I was ready to start, listening, like actually listening. And I just started bawling while washing that cart, and I was just thinking, just tears just streaming, just like. And I looked over to Hadijah, and I'm like, he brought you into my life, and so that I could learn more about all of this, and it was just, I don't know, I looked up to the sky, and I almost for a second thought like I was seeing like beyond the sky, and I felt like something even bigger than, much, much bigger than life, much bigger than the whole universe, just looking down at not just everyone, but at me. And I was terrified, and I was overjoyed, all at the same time. Sorry. So another, let's say, I think month or so, still talking with Adija, still living with her, still talking about Islam. Another month went by, and it gets close to the end of the year, and I'm thinking, there's still so much that I don't know about Islam at this point, but I know that it's important to me, and that it makes me happy in a way that nothing has ever made me happy before. And I'm like, 2017 is going to be the last year I'm agnostic. And then I went to the masjid. And I read up on the rules before I went, so I didn't walk in with shoes on or anything. I didn't interrupt their prayer. And that was such a great moment, that the conversion, because even though it was a small group of people, everybody was so excited and welcoming to me. And I'm glad I converted when I did, but there was the problem of I was still living with Hadijah, and we were realizing that was not okay anymore. But luckily, alhamdulillah, she had been talking with her parents that whole time, and she had been reconnecting with them and reconciling with them, and it got to the point where they were no longer thinking about sending her away, and they just wanted her back home, alhamdulillah. And so very quickly we got her affairs in order to fly back home, and that was in March. That was about 3 months after I converted. She flew back home, and she's now with her parents again, alhamdulillah. And yeah, I didn't know. There was a lot of things I didn't know about Islam when I came into it, and I just knew that I knew Allah existed, and I knew that He was relaying His message to us through the Prophet. And that was enough for me. And I said, everything else will fall into place. And it was true. After I converted, I started learning things much more quickly. And it also encouraged me to take on a religious studies minor here at UC Davis with a focus in Islamic studies. And that's been a wonderful experience as well. And yeah, I learned a lot in those first few months of being a convert, and then once Ramadan started, in these first 2 weeks of Ramadan, I feel like I've learned way more than those first few months of being a convert. It's the best month of my life, really. It's such a wonderful experience that I I never knew was even possible when I was agnostic. And this Ummah is wonderful, such wonderful people and that are willing to listen to me and, want to hear what I want to say. It's just a great community, Let's see. So Hadijah and I are still together. We are, we're long distance, and we try to keep it as by the book as we can. And for the month of Ramadan, as part of our fast, we stopped talking romantically to each other entirely. We just said, let's just focus on Islam, and let's focus on the Quran, because that's what this month is about. And let's, use this opportunity to repent for all the wrong that we've done, and hopefully, inshallah, God will have it that we'll be together in this life and the next. And so, right now, it's just a process of learning more about Islam, focusing on my studies, graduating, and then I fly over to Massachusetts to try and convince her parents to let me marry her. And that's where I am. Hello, was that long enough? Are your buddies still need more time? Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here.